time for all your binge-worthy pop culture news. Welcome to Up and Adam.
Hi, guys. Welcome back and happy Thursday. All right, guys. Well, we're back to recap the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills right before we come back at 12 p.m. Eastern. So right after this to recap the Real Housewives of Dubai. I see everybody in the live chat saying it's so great to be back and you have no idea. I love doing lives. And now that the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial is over, the verdict is in, we can resume our lives, which I cannot wait. Before we bring up Jason, I did want to say real quick at the bottom, you can see that there's a code right there for Birchbox. I'm going to have one code for this live and another one for the second live, but this is for a 3-month prepaid beauty subscription plan from Birchbox if you want 15% off, and the code is right there. It'll be there the whole time. And with that, I say, let's bring up Jason.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Isn't it so great to be back on lives?
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So guys, I did a poll asking you, who do you think was really stirring the pot and telling the truth? Actually, I mean, I was asking you, do you believe Kyle or do you believe Crystal in this episode? And the majority of you voted for Kyle. So I found that to be interesting. But before we talk about that in this episode, I want to ask Jason and all of you in the live chat, if you had to rate the episode a 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, what are we giving it? Jason, we start with you.
Oh gosh, you know what? I don't know. It was fine. It was like a 6.
A 6?
Yeah, it was fine. You know, someone brought here, let me bring it up really quick because someone in your comments said, you know, Beverly Hills is too dark now. I'm out. I'll listen to your recaps. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, everybody has such heavy issues in Beverly Hills, whether it's Crystal with, you know, having a safe space, whether it's Sutton and her background, whether it's Dorit's issue, whether it's Erika and Tom and all of that. It's just like, it's so mentally draining sometimes to watch. It's not like those good old days of Maloof Hoof or Lisa driving across the street to the other mansion to see Adrian for lunch. Like that was fun. And now it feels a little heavy. And I've heard that from a lot of people. So I don't know how everyone else feels, but sometimes it does feel heavy.
No, I mean, I agree with that. And I think that, you know, like as we're sitting here talking about it, you're right. Even with Erika and saying that the victims could potentially be lying, like this is just one thing after another.
What
and
the
I feel
hell? Yeah. No, come on.
I don't even know where to start with that. But let's
actually, Adam, have sorry to interrupt, but we actually do have a voicemail in our inbox from one of the victims from Tom Girardi. And it's crazy. I mean, you got to think like how could they not? I don't know. Erika's ridiculous. That's all I'll say. I'll let it move on.
Listen, obviously I'm not the one who's always protecting or sticking up for her. So we'll say that. But let's go in here and start talking about how the episode kind of kicked off. We kick off in La Quinta, and this is where we're at Kyle's house in the desert. And at Kyle's house, she lives in pretty much a golf course community. I thought it was interesting that she can just call the club and be like, you know what? Can I get a couple Bloody Marys? And I'm like, I want this life. This is great.
Yeah, where's that club? I can't call my apartment manager and be like, hey, can you bring up some like fresh towels and a Bloody Mary?
Yes. Can you guys please? Oh my gosh. Could you imagine the maintenance man would knock on the door and be like, can you go yourself? That's not happening. So, okay. No, but getting into it, the women are starting to talk about what happened the night before, and it was with Crystal. And Crystal feels like she's not being acknowledged, she's not being heard, and they're not validating her feelings. They're kind of just using a word. When she said violated last season, they really focused on the word and not what that meant to her. So as they're all talking about it, Garcelle's like, you know what? Let me call Crystal on the phone. Let's get her here so she could be a part of this conversation. And I'm really liking Garcelle for that, because when they all tried to talk about Sutton and what Sutton had to say about Dorit's home invasion, Garcelle was like, wait a minute, ladies, Sutton's not here. Let's wait until she's a part of the conversation and continue the conversation. Same thing with Crystal. She was like, Crystal is not here. Let's invite her into the conversation. And that's exactly what happened.
I mean, that's what happened. The only thing I have with Crystal, though, and I'm glad, and I have to agree with you on Garcelle. She's pushing like everything along. Storyline. She's like, no. We're going to sit here. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm going to ask you why you said that or why you're not saying something. And in this case, that goes for Crystal, because Crystal has Now a new kind of allegation that apparently Kyle was there for, where Sutton said something really dark. So that is a big accusation. But when you start saying things like that, you really do need to say what was said, or else no one can understand.
Listen, this is probably one of the only times I've agreed with Erika, and she made a great point. When you put out an allegation like that, or when you say something like Sutton said something much darker, and Kyle, you don't know because you were drunk. It's like, first of all, wait, okay. Now you're saying Kyle was drunk. Kyle probably didn't appreciate that, but listen, we all know that they drink while they, film. But then after that, Erika said, you're leaving it open for people to assume the worst and to interpret it a certain way. And Crystal felt like she was backed in a corner by Garcelle, and she said, this is why she brought this up about Sutton. And we just saw her last episode where we really applauded Crystal because she sat down with Sutton and she said, listen, I like where our friendship is headed. I feel like we've come a long way, and I want to let you know that the women were talking about you. Kyle brought something up in front of the rest of the women, and it came off like you were maybe a little bit insensitive to what Dorit was going through. So how do you go from that to all of a sudden, like, Sutton said something really problematic and dark? What did she say?
But, okay, here's the accountability here's Garcelle with the accountability of, like, what did she say? And this is how the only way to squash this is to understand what exactly happened.
Exactly. And the thing is she's not saying it. So Garcelle made a good point. She's like, well, if you're not saying it and it was problematic, now that makes me question my friendship and my relationship with Sutton, because if she said something problematic and it has anything to do with race, maybe this is not someone I want to associate with or be friends with. And Garcelle has a great point, but it's still all left up in the air. And Crystal's like, I'm not going to say it. I'm not saying it. But you've already said something and you've alluded to something being much bigger. So you have to say it. You can't just drop a bomb and not say it.
And I feel like if it was that big of a deal, and I'm not taking that away from her if it is, but I feel like if it was that big of a deal or that dark of a statement or a word or whatever Sutton said, Kyle would remember that because she remembered most of the night.
And I don't think that Kyle would protect Sutton. You know what I mean? I think that
right.
if she knew it, she would mention it.
100% mention it all.
But, this is a good point. Drama said, and guys, 300 in the room, less than 10 minutes in. Hey, smash that like button. Read the code at the bottom. But Kyle, when we're sitting here talking about the Sutton thing, Drama made a great point saying, I feel that Sutton knows what she said, and that's why she doesn't want to talk about it, and she wants to move forward. Now, when they're having this conversation, and I'm just kind of bouncing around a little bit right now, but when they're having this conversation, Kyle says that she feels like Sutton is trying to move forward because she doesn't want something to come up, even though Kyle doesn't feel like there's anything that would come up. She said that she would have remembered it, but she thinks that Sutton, maybe Sutton was drinking too, and she was just like, maybe I said something, maybe I didn't. I know that this could be problematic if I did, and this could just ruin me on the housewives. So can we please just move forward and put this behind us? Almost like she doesn't know what she said, but she doesn't want to dwell on it because this, could ruin her.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, let's get into another thing really quick here, because this is something else that bothered me. When Garcelle's talking to Erika and they're talking about the victims and everything that happened, they're kind of reminiscing on how last year Erika was in a different place, sort of like night and day, right? Now she's in a much better place. She feels like she's in a much better place. And she said she can kind of breathe because she's over the bridge and she can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, Garcelle said to her, why don't you just acknowledge or say, that you have empathy for the victim? Say something. And Erika's like, I haven't said that I don't have empathy for them. I actually do. And Garcelle's like, well, then why can't you say that? And she's like, no. Because when you're in my position and you have legal stuff going on, every single word counts. Then the biggest contradiction of this whole conversation is Erika coming back and saying, to be fair, we don't actually know if the victims never really.
If they weren't really paid. Yeah, it's again, this is an opportunity missed on Erika where you really could have just shown empathy, because I feel like that's what so many people want. Viewers, fans, even fans of her that used to be fans of her. But she, for some reason, is just coming across very just non-apologetic for anything, and it just is not a great look moving forward. It's really hard to like Erika.
It really, I mean, it really is hard to like Erika. You know, I've had some of these conversations with Zach, and we go back and forth on this all the time because we have two totally different positions here. I'm not trying to run a smear campaign on Erika at all. I don't know if she knew anything about her husband's, you know, misdoings. Sutton said that she doesn't believe her. She just did another recent interview where she's like, Erika and I are getting to a better place. But no, I don't totally believe her. I'll be softer on her, but I'm not going to say that I believe that she didn't have any awareness as to what her husband was doing. And then when we're watching Erika, we have moments like this where she's like Kyle, Garcelle, Dorit all look at her and they're like, wait a minute, hold on. Are you saying that the victims could be lying? And Garcelle goes, what? No. And Erika goes, yes. And I'm like, you're saying that you can't say stuff because every word counts, but then you're now, instead of saying something that's really nice and sweet about the victims, saying something like, you know, you hope that they come out of this on top and you'll do whatever you can, whether it's writing a book and donating the proceeds to help give back or giving up those diamonds or something like that. Instead of saying that, you're going to say that they could potentially be lying, which is even more dangerous, saying that they actually might have been paid, when that goes against the whole basis of The Housewife and the Hustler, which was the ABC documentary. I'm like mind blown.
It's mind blowing. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't ever think we're going to get any kind of closure with Erika, and I don't think she's ever going to show any kind of empathy. That's just how I am viewing it now.
I mean, I agree. I don't think that she's going to show anything, but it's that on top of the, you know, moment where we see in the trailer, and we haven't gotten it this season yet, but she's talking to Crystal and she's like, you think it's cool to be on the side of the victims? Let me be very clear about this. I don't give a fuck about anybody but myself. And you're like,
but that is so apparent already. We know that. We see that.
I mean,
we understand that. I want to know too how she affords keeping a creative director, and this team is now back. You know, another unrelatable thing from Erika. I mean, you're not supposed to be relatable as a housewife, but like in your situation right now, I think it would be good to show some kind of, you know.
What did you think really quick?
Does she live in this pool house, or does she have a house with a pool house? I'm so confused.
She has a house with a pool house.
Okay.
They said it's somewhere around $10,000 a month. It's a house that has like a little pool house. And allegedly her neighbor at the time was Armie Hammer, right? I think that's his name.
Yeah.
But anyways, going back to it though, I thought it was really funny because we've seen Garcelle. She's shown up to Tom Tom to support a fundraiser thrown by our friend Richardson. That was an effort, you know, to like give back to Haiti after they went through everything that all the devastation. It was just horrible, but they were trying to raise money. And I thought that was incredible. And Garcelle showed up. She showed up to Tom Tom. She took photos with Lisa Vanderpump. So I think this is where the relationship started. Now from there, she gets a phone call in this episode from her son, who lives in Las Vegas, and he's really excited because he just got a new job. In that new job, he's now working for Lisa Vanderpump at her new establishment in Las Vegas, and he's really excited about it. And if you guys didn't see Vanderpump à Paris, right? At the grand opening, Garcelle was there. She walked the carpet. She was sitting down with Lance Bass and Lisa Vanderpump. So this could be a budding friendship. And Lisa supporting her son by bringing him in. And we both know that if you work for Lisa or Ken, if you work in one of their restaurants, then there is a lot of opportunity with that. There's a lot of opportunity. You can make great money. And that's exactly what he needs to do right now because he has a family. He has kids. And Garcelle's talked about his struggles in the past, but when she shared it, she walks over, and I thought this was hilarious. She's like, guys, so my son just got a great job. I got off the phone with him, and he's working for someone who you all know. And Dorit goes, PK? And she's like, no, Lisa Vanderpump.
Why would you work for PK? Like,
what would you do for PK?
Are you a backup singer for Boy George, or, you know, I'm confused. Yeah, the impact that her name had on the women really makes me want Lisa Vanderpump back on the show.
Oh my gosh,
you know, because it would just be skin crawling for these ladies if she walked in a room.
You know that if she ever wanted to return, they would give it to her in 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
And just like Lisa Rinna laying on the floor, and she's like, okay. And Dorit's like, hey, Garcelle, maybe you should grab your bags and walk straight over there, over that hill, and we're good on you. And then Erika's like, where's the Lexapro? I need to up my Lexapro. And I'm like, oh, what is that?
That's the last thing you need to do from already what we've seen this season is up your Lexapro and your alcohol. You should bring them both down just a little bit.
You know, there was an article that came out on All About the Real Housewives, kind of like a blind item thing, saying this West Coast housewife is mixing, you know, pills with alcohol as her storyline in order to get away from the legal ish that.
Oh God, which one of the 20 are we talking about?
Okay. Well, not all of them are going through legal ish, but you know, it is what it is. I also want to talk about really quick, since we're bouncing around here, guys, 470 in the room, smash that like button. Let's get to 50. But I want to talk about Dorit for a second. We have Dorit, and she's still struggling. She said that even in La Quinta, staying at the house, that she didn't get a whole lot of sleep. Garcelle said, you should have came in, knocked on the door, and woke one of us up. She's like, I don't want to bother you guys. And she is struggling with this. And I saw last night on social media where people were like, oh my gosh, I can't hear about this like home invasion anymore. And I'm thinking in my head, well, that's not necessarily fair. This was really traumatic for her. This was a big deal. And this is not just a storyline that is contrived and concocted. From what we can see, this was really painful for her. We're watching her go through the therapy process.
And it is painful. And in some way, shape, or form, I do actually agree that I don't want to see this the rest of the season or the whole season, only because, like I said at the beginning, Beverly Hills has become very dark with very heavy situations. So this is just something that drags on. It's not like the cotton candy stuff we used to have in Beverly Hills. Like you go back even just a few seasons ago, and it was playing yesterday on Bravo reruns, and I was like catching a few, and I'm like, God, these episodes were so fun to watch. Now when I turn on Beverly Hills, it gets very like.
I also though, I mean, let's go back really quick because we've had some moments on Beverly Hills that were a little dark too. Like, you're a slut pig and you stole my damn house. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So it wasn't always
right. The quarreling between sisters, that's very different than, you know, I had a gun to my head, or my husband now is senile and lives in a home after stealing hundreds of $1 million from victims allegedly. So it's a very different situation.
I know. I kind of miss like the Maloof hoof and stuff like that.
Yeah, you know? Like those little like things, and you know, meeting up at lunch and you know, having your slight shit talking shade sessions, like that's fun to watch. For women's businesses to be successful, that's fun to watch. I'm not taking any away from Kyle and her store opening, but you know, like that's fun to watch. Right. Watching Diana Jenkins walk into her first store, which I still find ridiculous this episode, going to Sutton's store. I guess it would be her second store, right? If she had already been to Kyle's.
Yeah, I mean, well, technically, this is Sutton's only store, but yes. But this is Diana's second store to be going to.
Second store, yeah. So she's hitting a lot of stores with those allergies. And it was really funny to me that she doesn't go to stores because of her allergies, yet she grew up as an immigrant trying to make it. And she had all kinds of jobs, she said, as a maid at one point. And I'm like, you became really cool and relatable. And now you're just becoming, this is funny. Like, you can't go into a store because you have allergies.
Well, you know,
do you walk outside?
Tamara Judge said this too on 2 T's in a Pod. She was like, listen, for Diana, she's like, I liked her at first, but she's really unrelatable. And I feel like she's playing it up for the cameras. And I do feel like she's playing it up for the cameras because to say, you know, like, I don't go in stores. And then you have her assistant and she's like, yeah, I've never seen her go in a store because designers just send her a ton of clothes and they know her shapes and sizes. And then she even goes on to let us know that her old apartment in London was designed by Giorgio Armani. Her other apartment before that was designed by Fendi.
And you know, there's something really fun about this. This is why we watch Housewives, for the exuberance and the opulence and everything else that comes with it. However, I think her story is so cool the way it is, being an immigrant, having nothing, you know, but to act now that she's too good to like walk into a store. I'm like, you lost me. Yeah. You know, you're just a person. We're all just people. Like,
at the end of the day, it's like, come on, and you know, and then her and Crystal like locking arms, walking in, and Diana's like, I'm doing it. I'm walking into a store. Like, I want to go knock on Diana's door. And I want to be like, hey, Diana, get in the car. Let's go somewhere. I want to take her to a Walmart. And I want to see how she's going to react in a Walmart or a Costco. I want to see how she would react. And she'd be like, what is this? This is crazy. what is this world? I'm like, this is the world of all of the wealth of memes that we've gotten on Facebook regarding Florida people beating each other up in Walmart. Right here. You're seeing it.
I feel like she might not appreciate that.
Yeah, we should probably not. Probably not. But let's get to the store for a second because that had a lot of drama. Now, at the store, we see where things need to be called out. And I love in true housewives fashion. Guys, 600 in the room, smash that like button, show some love. Hey, and we're going to drop the link here in a little bit just to take some opinions. But I like how first we get Garcelle sitting down with Crystal. And before we got to this point, though, Crystal was like kind of confused by Garcelle because they've been really getting along. We have the Fox Faux 5 over here to the right. And then we have Sutton, Crystal, and Garcelle who have really band together in their newbie statuses, trying to support one another throughout this whole process of filming the show. And Garcelle said, I thought that you baited Sutton into that moment where you said, are you really that girl? Are you that girl that doesn't see color? I feel like you baited her into that situation. And Crystal said, but wait a minute. Now you know me. You didn't know me then. Do you still feel like that? And she's like, honestly, I don't know how I feel.
Well, Crystal, I mean, I understand where Garcelle's coming from, though, because I feel like Crystal has yet to explain what actually happened.
Well, and again, she's alluding to something, but she's not giving us what it is. So to say it's much darker. Stassi Schroeder just did this in a podcast when she was talking about Lala Kent and Randall's relationship. And how many times have I asked you, Jason? At least like 10. What do you think she could have been talking about? Because she's like, you know, Lala, the demise of Lala and Randall's relationship was something much darker than just cheating. And I'm like, you can't just say that. What does that mean? They have a family. There's kids involved. What are you saying when you say much darker? And I think that's where Garcelle comes in and she's like, I need to know what you're talking about being much darker, because Crystal did say, you ladies, this wouldn't affect you or bother you, but it would affect me. And it would affect Garcelle. And Garcelle's like, well, if that's true, then I deserve to know because I want to know who I'm friends with.
And I agree with that. This is exactly why we need Garcelle on the show and why she's so good on the show, because it's accountability. Let's nip this in the butt. What was it? Put the truth on the table and make decisions. Stop being this is that phony Beverly Hills shit that people get sick of. Well, it's much darker than you know. Or like, you know, well, I heard, you know, but I can't really say. It's like, okay, come on. Like, say something. Let us know something. Let us make our own conclusions from, you know, what you have to say. She's just not giving us anything.
She's not giving us
make
anything.
Accusations without receipts. Not
but
on Housewives.
That's the problem here. She's not giving us anything, and she's just going, you know, she's kind of just playing around with this whole concept. And I think she was really taken aback by Garcelle saying, honestly, I feel like you baited her into this situation. And Crystal was like, whoa, wait a minute. Now I'm baiting someone. And Crystal probably feels like she can't win at this point. But the women feel like because Crystal ended up taking that moment and saying, well, you know what? There was something said much darker. And there was actually a lot more that you didn't see on the show, which we know this, Jason. When they film Housewives or reality TV shows, sometimes the conversations are much bigger, and then editing plays a big role into kind of condensing that and giving you the most impactful moment, which was, please tell me you're not that girl that doesn't see color. But Garcelle feels like in her mind, had she have said anything, you would have still gone with that, please tell me you're not that girl. You wanted that moment and you baited her into it. So now we go over to Sutton's party, and we're going to get to the French designer in a minute. But when we're sitting down, Garcelle and Crystal and Kyle, they're all talking. And she says again to Kyle, she's like, you don't remember. And Kyle's like, stop saying that to me. I would remember. And if she would have said something that was like that, wow, then yes, I would have known it. And I don't believe that she said that. And apparently, according to the poll in the live chat, a lot of people don't feel like something was said. They feel like Crystal is just throwing something out there.
And I see later, and I don't know if this is true, that Crystal and Sutton, I mean, and Garcelle become a very, like, I think they become like a little triangle pact. So I wonder how they get through this speed bump in the road in their friendship, because I think they end up being friends the rest of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Well, now we finally figured out why Garcelle was like telling Sutton, you need to be careful of your new friend. And Sutton is just kind of rolling over, and she's like, you know what? Can we just move forward? And Kyle thinks it's because she's afraid. There's a lot happening here. But in true Housewives fashion, this is what I was getting to. I love that when there's a moment, it starts off with the three of them, and then Sutton ends up coming in and sitting down, and then here comes Dorit and Diana, and I'm like, oh, producers just ran over to you and said, all of you ladies, get in there now. Get in there.
Absolutely.
We need the scene. Get in there. And I'm like, ugh. So what did you think about this moment right here? Because we finally got to meet the man, not this man. Oh, definitely not that man.
We met that man.
We
finally got to meet. Yes. I forgot his name already. That wasn't shade. I just forgot his name. I do have to say, Sutton puts on a lot of front. I like Sutton, I think, but she puts on a lot of like front. I'm like, this is how you do things. This is how it should be. But I found her party pretty underwhelming. In a sense.
I mean, I think sometimes like I'm learning a lot from our housewives, just like watching the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And we saw Marlo put on this whole event for her new business. And then she said that she wanted to make it about the clothes. We're watching Sutton walk around in a $17,000 couture dress. We see the couture dresses all over the place. I almost died when I saw the server lean into the mannequin and it almost fell over. I'm like, that is me as a server. I would have spilled something. I remember, who was it? It was August Getty, who showed up, and I was working in a nightclub and I was trying to deliver drinks and all this other stuff. And I accidentally stepped on his shoes and he like ripped me a new one. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm clumsy. He wasn't the nicest, but my point is I would have been that server. And she's throwing this event because she wants to sell couture clothes. Now, these clothes are ridiculously priced. Not a lot of people.
Why were Kyle's clothes there?
I actually don't know why Kyle's clothes were there.
Well, it was funny because when she was introducing people who had their own line, not before Kyle. Why am I missing that?
Dorit had a line?
Yeah. She said, this is right? My friend Dorit. She has her own line of, she was just doing things. And Kyle's like, I also have my own line. I'm like, I thought it was Shahida's line and you put your name on it. I wasn't sure how that really worked. But
Kyle's like, you're batting 1,000 with me right now.
Yeah.
But she is carrying your line in her store. And even though it's Kyle x Shahida, it's still Kyle's name is on it. So give her that. It's still there. And there was one person who was noticeably absent. I can't believe we have 750 in the room. Hey, guys. Good morning.
Everyone.
We're back. I love that. She was noticeably absent.
Unnoticeably absent, I think, here. I think it was good that we got a break from someone just said Beverly Beach and Beverly Beach. Yeah, Beverly Beach. I liked seeing the her by herself for a second, Erika by herself, and her away from the ladies for a minute. I think we all needed that moment in the episode. But she was invited in the group text and they just had a little fallout again. I mean, I think they haven't even gotten back from their original fallout, Sutton and Erika. But after Harry Hamlin's birthday, I don't know why she would go.
I mean, speaking of Harry Hamlin and Lisa Rinna, by the way, guys, I did put up the StreamYard link if anybody wants to call in. Hashtag goodbye, Kyle. She's so annoying. LOL. Wow. Hi from Norway. Hi from Florida. Okay. So getting back to it really quick, I wanted to talk about Lisa Rinna because there's a lot of shit that she's going through right now. She completely just doxed this guy who is claiming that he is a part of this new series that's called The Real Husbands of Sunset, and that he was asked by producers, him and his ensemble cast that he's a part of, they were asked by producers to go meet up with Lisa Rinna and get some pointers about how to make a great show. In that, somehow they ended up sharing contact information, and he texted her, kind of threatening to expose her and telling her, well, he called her out, but privately. She posted that with his phone number, and he was receiving hundreds of threats, calls, emails, whatever, text messages, doesn't matter. She doxed him, and now he's threatening to sue, and he's threatening legal action, which is actually a pretty big deal. But to be fair, when she did that to him, he ended up doxing her back and posting her number as well. So 2 wrongs don't make a right, and he might have just lost that legal lawsuit, whatever, that he wanted to pursue. Probably should not have doxed her back, friend.
Well, no one should be doxing anyone.
Nobody should be doxing anyone. And Kelly Dodd somewhere out there still claiming that Harry Hamlin is the next one to be outed.
Kelly Dodd is still out there making claims about claims about claims. But
yeah, she really, yeah. Kelly Dodd is still out there doing anything to stay relevant as hell. Before we start bringing up people, we have Joe Mendoza in the room. Again, you guys can call. I already dropped the link. I'll drop it again for you guys just in case. But I wanted to say this is Lisa Rinna and Erika Girardi's. It's their last season as a part of their 4-year contract. So going into next season, I feel like you can tell they're really fighting hard to make sure that they get asked back. And I don't see a world of housewives where they don't ask Lisa Rinna back, because she is that pot stirrer. She is that person who is going to make sure that she holds everybody else accountable, because she doesn't want anybody talking about her. So if she talks about you and she puts the attention on you, Munchausen's, your sister's close to death. Denise, did you cheat on your husband? Garcelle, did you try to set Erika up by saying that Tom's been calling her? Why would you do that? She always loves to put the attention on someone else. That way we're not talking about her.
No, and listen, I when you told me, like, I was like, oh gosh, I hope their contract runs out. By the way, shout out to Maxine.
Yes, shout out to Maxine from Scotland.
In Scotland. No, I feel like I was talking to you last night and I was saying, Lisa Rinna, I'm like done. Erika, I'm done. But when you said that, I kind of feel like I still want to see Lisa have a formidable opponent. I still want to see someone come on who's going to take her. And we haven't gotten that. And I don't know if we will. Erika, I don't know if she's not giving us anything this season besides more, no empathy and just a pill and drink riot. Maybe it's just not, maybe it's time for her to go and bring on someone else a little more interesting, because this is not what I want to watch.
Right. And, I think for Lisa Rinna, I think that she needs to not piss off Diana, because I feel like Diana would be a formidable opponent. And also if they ever brought LVP back, but LVP has said that she has closed that door, kind of like Bethany Frankel. It's not happening. We're not getting them back, even though we would love to have them back. And for Lisa Rinna, unfortunately, fortunately for her, she's in a great position because she just gets to kind of do whatever she wants.
Hey, fortunately for Lisa Rinna, she's like we said, we sit here and we recap and we talk about what we see on TV and the shows and all that. She is great reality TV.
Right.
You can't deny that, whether you like her or you don't like her. Kelly Dodd was great reality TV until she got a little,
yeah,
a little too much. A little too much what people didn't want to watch.
She definitely became a little bit too much, but I don't want to sit here and trash Lisa Rinna either, because last night's episode was really hard to watch after her mom had a stroke. And, at one point in the episode, she was even telling Dorit to have a conversation with her mother, Lois, because Lois was put in a position where she came face to face with a notorious serial killer in California. So I believe it was California, but, she was talking about how Dorit should talk to her because she's a survivor and that she could learn a lot from Lois. And then unfortunately, we see where she gets the call and she finds out that her mom had a stroke and she has to go and be by her side. And we do know that her mom, Lois, passed. And I was reading Twitter last night where people are so awful and they're like, that's karma. And that's not karma. That's somebody's
People forget it's just a show we're watching. It's a very produced show. But when you come to the human part of life where, she's dealing with her mom passing, that's very sad.
It is very sad. And I think that you should be able to separate the two, because like you said, it's a show. Guys, 800 in the room. Smash that like button. I love you guys. Again, we're going live after this for Dubai, but let's bring up some callers. Hello, Joe Mendoza.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, guys. Haven't seen you guys in a long time. I've been so buried in that Depp Amber Heard.
I know.
Johnny Depp trial.
Everybody's been so buried in the Johnny Depp trial. I'm so happy that there's a verdict. I mean, I have to say really quick, Joe, since you brought it up, Jason and I haven't really been watching too much of it because we had a lot going on and still trying to work at the same time. Yeah. But then when the other day we had a day off and we sat there on the couch and I just played clips from it and I sat there and watched the clips for like 3 hours. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so invested. Jason's like, how have we been sleeping on this? I was like,
I know. Well, we also have been busy with our family, but watching, I don't want to get into it too much, but like, what is her name? Camila Vasquez?
Camila Vasquez.
Fantastic. She's great TV on her own.
Oh yeah.
That's reality TV. Maybe she'll be one of our housewives.
Or you could have Elaine Bredehoft in one of the housewives. She'll just be someone that people love to hate. But
yeah.
Well, Joe, I do want to ask you. I want to ask you a couple things here real quick, and Trish, I'll bring you up next. What did you think about Crystal alluding to there being something darker in the conversation, something that was problematic with Sutton, and then Sutton's reaction was, I just want to move forward. I don't want to talk about it. Do you believe that there was something said and maybe Kyle missed it?
Yeah. And this is probably unpopular opinion. I actually of the housewives of Beverly Hills, I think Garcelle and Crystal are the realest. people in the show for different types of reasons, I think. And I think Diana was right the first time when she called out Sutton for just, being careless with her words. And
Right.
the thing is, there might have been a situation where Sutton have said something that Kyle might not interpret as something offensive because she's not POC, but it could strike very differently from someone who is POC.
Right.
She
Yeah,
did also,
absolutely.
she did also mention that it wasn't too egregious that she wasn't able to forgive Sutton about it. So it sounds like offline they were able to hash it out after filming. So and I think it goes to the conversation that Crystal had with Sutton about what Kyle brought up about the insensitive comment, because she probably just wants to double down on something that was previously discussed, just making sure that that type of behavior wasn't something that would have been a pattern, because they had already passed that type of conversation before they resolved, their kerfuffle, in the previous season. So I definitely believe there was something that was said that initially hurt Crystal, but was able to move past it. Now,
but do you feel like Garcelle, what she's saying with, I don't think Sutton could have won that conversation with you at all. I feel like you were baiting her into it. Do you feel like that's true or no?
I think she believes it, but if she's thought that for this entire time, and Garcelle and Crystal are supposed to be close now, Garcelle should have brought it up way beforehand, not during this time, because that was last year's episode. That was last year's topic,
and they've done so much since then. They did the LA Times shoot. They've done a lot.
Yeah, and and for her to bring that up during that time when she was guaranteeing, or at least assuaging, Crystal, that like it'll be a safe space, like we just want to talk it out. And for her to ambush her like that, I think it was totally it was a provocation on her part. I didn't necessarily appreciate it. I still love Garcelle though, but she was definitely stirring the pot there. But I do believe she believes that. I don't think it was necessarily the tiniest thing in the world to bring up if that was something she could have brought up last season.
Okay, I have another question for you before we bring up Trish. And Sylvia Marsh, thank you so much for the super sticker. We appreciate you. I wanted to ask you, when we see this moment where Erika is talking to Garcelle and she says that every word counts in legal, and we understand that, right? You have to be very careful. But then at the end of that statement, at the end of that statement, she said that they're not even sure that the victims didn't get paid. What was your reaction to that?
That was certainly that. And I'm kind of with Zach on this one, but I think that statement in and of itself was made in poor taste. Because if she really wants to help the victims, then that type of commentary really isn't necessary. If she really believes she can't speak to any compassion towards the victims, then she shouldn't have said anything that could be disparaging to them either. So to me, that was foul. Like she should have shut up about it.
Right. All right.
Agreed.
Well, Joe, hopefully
another missed opportunity for Erika Jayne.
It was a missed opportunity for Erika Jayne. But Joe, hopefully you'll be around for Dubai, because we cannot, this is something I'm really excited to talk about, but we will be back in 20 minutes to talk about Dubai. Before we go though, I'm going to bring up some more callers. And Joe Mendoza, we miss you and we're so happy to be back on the line.
No, I miss you guys too. Yay. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, Joe.
All right, guys, let's bring up Trish. Before we do, don't forget to, again, Jason, what am I going to say? Don't forget to
smash that like button.
Okay.
Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, so you can get all the latest and greatest. So much great things are coming up because, you guys, I work behind the scenes on Up and Atom all the time. So many great things are coming up that I cannot even explain.
I've stolen Jason full time now, to be honest with you, but you guys will see what he means.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring up Trish.
Yay.
Hi, Trish.
Hey, Trish.
Hello. It's so good to be back.
It's so
Nice
good
to
to
see
see
you.
you. I'm so happy that Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial's over.
Me too. And I'm so glad you pulled me up for this because I love Joe, but Joe and I have a completely different opinion about Crystal. And I suspect it's because Joe's in his 30s and I'm in my 50s. And so while I applaud the younger people being more empathetic and, you know, like not name calling, and I think we've made a lot of progress, I am horrified at this whole notion of needing a safe space and being oversensitive about things that you're going to bring up but not bring up. So you're going to throw someone under the bus and let us think the worst, but yet not explain what she actually said last year. I was horrified. I didn't like Crystal last year. I thought there was something weird and off about her. And then this year with the whole, you know, I don't feel, first of all, I couldn't even figure out what had triggered Crystal. And then she goes off, and when they're saying, well, wait, what's going on with you? Well, I don't feel safe. I mean, is that a millennial thing? I mean, come on, really?
I think so. I don't want to speak for everyone, but like I understand there are moments, you know, especially being someone that I can't even relate to being a person of color, but I know they have moments of not feeling in a safe space, and that has to be addressed for sure. But in this, I felt like it was just a way out, that maybe she was going to bring something up that had already had a conclusion or a resolution, and she wanted to bring it up, and then she kind of backpedaled. Oh no, I don't want to bring this up on the show.
Do you
Yeah, it
think
was
that,
so
do you
weird.
agree with Kyle in the sense that by, you know, Crystal saying that she felt violated last year when Sutton walked in to, I think, bring her coat or something like that, and she felt violated because she deals with, she said she
Oh,
deals
come
with
on.
body issues, and I don't want to take that away from Crystal, but Kyle's kind of saying in this moment, you saying last year that you weren't validated because people didn't necessarily understand why you were using a word as strong as violated.
Right.
To talk about the situation, that's different than Dorit being held at gunpoint and two men
Right.
threatening to kill her with her children in the other room. She's like, it's apples and oranges. But this is
Right.
the second time Kyle's tried to say something about Dorit's stuff. She tried to explain that to Sutton when Sutton brought up the French designer. And Sutton was like, well, it's relevant to me. And Crystal's kind of saying, it's all relative to me as well.
Well, that's just, I mean, that's crazy. And I saw that Kyle was just getting reamed on Twitter. And I thought, well, gosh, you know, maybe because I'm closer in age to Kyle, you know, I was gobsmacked like Kyle was when Crystal first brought this up. I thought, well, what in the world is she even talking about? And then, you know, to have, I mean, Dorit was violated. Her home was violated. Her personal space and body were violated. And that's a completely different situation than having someone accidentally walk into your room and say, oh, sorry, don't know what's going on, but here's your coat. I mean, we've all had embarrassing things happen where people have walked in and, you know, maybe you're in the bathroom and they walk in and you're like, oh, sorry, excuse me. And yeah, it can be embarrassing, but to keep hounding on you've been violated. And then even a year later, I mean, I appreciate that everyone has their own sensitivities, maybe as a person of color or a person who's got an eating disorder, but you can't impose your issues on everybody else. I mean, you know, for her to be talking about this a year later, I think she's either oversensitive or she's looking for a storyline.
Well,
Or
I was
maybe
going to
this
say
is a
producers
millennial
did have a
thing.
conversation with her at the end of last year. And I know this because I talked to some people about it. This is confirmed. They did pull her to the side and say, you know, we need you to step it up next season. Now you've got your feet wet. You know how this whole process works. You've seen it. You've lived through it for a season, but next season we need you to step it up. So maybe she felt like, and I'm just trying to give the benefit of the doubt here to Crystal, maybe she felt like last season she didn't know these women, so she didn't feel like she could really take up for herself because she was trying to figure it out. But then she came in this season thinking, you know what, actually, screw that. I'm going to address it because I didn't get closure last season. And I do want to.
Well, she was sticking up for herself last year. I thought she was, you know, she was going hard on the don't tell me I haven't been violated. I mean, I thought she was sticking up for herself. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm not a good person to comment because she has rubbed me the wrong way from day one.
No, I do. I want to say this really quick too, because Carla Barrick said, you know, and this is why it's great to have these conversations, especially in the live chat, and bring up callers, because we're not everyone's always going to agree. And I think it's interesting to hear everyone's point of view on what we're watching, because we're all watching a show that usually 9 times out of 10 we enjoy watching. Sometimes it gets a little heavy, but these conversations are important.
This particular franchise has gotten very heavy.
Yeah.
In the
I mean, it's
more recent years.
I think it's good for us, you know, to grow and learn and to be more compassionate and considerate. And I think that these younger generations, the millennials and the Gen Zs, are definitely better at that. I mean, when I was growing up, we referred to Mongoloid Mike down the street. I mean, that's unacceptable now, and it should be unacceptable. But I wonder sometimes if, you know, if the pendulum hasn't swung too far, because now, you know, people are so sensitive, and, you know, this business of the safe space drives me crazy. The last thing I'm going to mention, just on the Erika Jayne situation, as an attorney, I know for a fact that she can have compassion for the victims without opening herself up to liability. That's a bunch of BS. Now, it's not BS for your attorney to tell you, zip it, don't talk, we don't want you to get into trouble. But if she were to sit down with her attorney, and as you two have brought up numerous times, either, you know, write up a statement or discuss what she can and cannot say, you know, so that she doesn't expose herself to liability, she could absolutely do that. So I think it's a bunch of bunk for her to just say, well, I'm not allowed to show compassion because, you know, then I could open up myself to liability. That's a bunch of garbage. It's just not true.
Right.
Do you think that she thinks it's a form of weakness to express any kind of empathy in front of these other women?
Maybe. And also maybe in her mind, she thinks it is some kind of admission of guilt, you know, if she were to show empathy. I can't figure out what's going on in that woman's mind, you know. And then same with Diana Jenkins, thinking that people are going to like her more if she's more snooty. You know, I wonder if Erika sometimes thinks that, you know, that people fell in love with her as the ice queen, and so now she's going to lean into that, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just not working.
I agree. I agree with Jason when he said, and it's not just Jason, there are a lot of people who have this opinion. I think we always give whatever housewife comes on our newbies, knowing that they're full-time, we always give them the benefit of the doubt, and we try to like them, because there's nobody, you don't want to bring someone on and just everybody is like, who are we going to hate now? But for her coming on and sharing everything that she's been through and her upbringing, and how she was at one point really poor, and she, you know, like, just her struggles, talking about that, I think she should have left it at that. And then we can appreciate where she is today, as opposed to going from this extreme and talking about that, which is, I'm sure it was really hard for her. But then over here now being very unrelatable by saying, I can't go into stores, I'm allergic.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Oh,
When you got married, did you lose your brain too? Because this is such a great story, and it's a story of winning and conquering hurdles, and I love that story, and I love to see that story. But when you get there, you get way up there, and you have so much money. When you start pretending that like you can't go to certain places or do certain things, it's like, have you forgotten who you are?
Remember when Erika said she didn't even know how to go to the bank? I mean, come on, you were 25 or something when you got married, right? Yeah. You never had a bank account. You never went to the bank.
You know, just watching, because I love watching the Kardashians too. The other day, last week's episode, I watched where Kris and her daughter Kylie Jenner, they ended up wanting to take a normal day. So they did normal things like go grocery shopping and go to through the car wash. And she pumped her own gas, and she's like, Kylie, how does this work? I'm like, no, girl, you definitely know how to pump your own gas. Like we're being just like a little absurd here. You know what it's like to go into a store.
Listen, Kylie, you just said Kylie, right?
It was Kris who was like, no, Kris was acting like she didn't know how to pump the gas.
Oh, Kris Jenner?
And she was, Kris Jenner was not famous until her 50s. Yeah, I mean,
Kris Jenner was a flight attendant. She knows how to pump gas for sure.
I mean,
if you know how to open the emergency exit, you can pump your gas.
I mean, these people don't realize that we would actually like them more if they were more normal. I almost get the feeling that they think we're going to like them more if they're over the top. And that's just not true. It's just not relatable.
I mean, our Patrick said sometimes maybe the money makes their brains fall out. I don't know. Okay.
I wouldn't know.
Well, Trish, we're about to go get ready to talk about the Real Housewives of Dubai. It was so great seeing you again. We love the fireplace in the back. And just thank you so much for calling in and joining the live. We're back on lives. It feels nice.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to have to find a new background now that it's getting warm. We're going to have to find something new besides the fireplace.
We'll find
You
something.
can come down here. We have some palm trees.
I have a feeling you
I
have
would love it
in that house.
I would love it. All right, guys. Well, I'll see you after 12 o'clock.
All right. See you in 10 minutes.
Bye, Trish.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. So over 860 in the room. That's amazing. This has been one hell of a live, and it feels so good to be back. Jason, what are you looking forward to in next week's episode? Next week, we go to Mexico, right?
Yeah, Punta Mita.
Punta Mita.
PK's suggestion.
I agree with it, though.
I do, too. I think like some time away, but now I don't think it's going to be very relaxing from what we're seeing. I want to see some kind of I really do want to see just a resolution of the whole Crystal Sutton thing. This can't carry on. Right. I said before, though, that maybe I want to see how Dorit actually overcomes this whole thing, actually. I changed my mind. I just completely did a 180 on that. But yeah, I'd like to see Garcelle call more people out. And yeah, as of that, that's it.
I do want to say, too, when it comes to Crystal on the show, I've had an interview with Crystal. We hit it off really well. I enjoyed our conversation. I really like Crystal. And we've even talked when we were doing the Spilling Tea Live. She was supposed to come to Los Angeles, but then I think she had a vacation plan. And then she was even going to donate products to give in our swag bags. But then everything that started going on with Ukraine started happening, and she was donating her products over there to help. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that she does have a big heart. I think that she's a really incredible woman. I think that right now we're getting the same case of what happened the first season, where she said there was much longer and larger conversations and it got condensed and edited. I feel like we're seeing that again this season, where there was. I also feel like
remember I was excited to have her brought on to Beverly Hills. I thought she would be an amazing addition, but it took me like 3/4 of the season to really enjoy her, because I thought, you just replaced Teddy with another Teddy. We didn't want that. And I feel like the same thing here. I think this is going to blow over. I think we're going to see a different side of Crystal coming up. I feel it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see what you guys are saying. I still think, I don't want to read that. Okay. Yes, Jason, Crystal and Sutton need to be clear about the incident, the race discussion, and move forward without, dredging it up over and over. And I do see where a lot of people, in the chat are also saying that there should be more sympathy, and it's, as to what's going on with Crystal. Again, all I can say on here is I appreciate if we can all just respectfully have these conversations. They are harder conversations to have. And I'm not saying we always need to have them, but when it comes up on an episode and we're recapping that episode and Garcelle's questioning what the meaning, the darker meaning is, Kyle's questioning it, Sutton doesn't know what's going on. Of course, everybody's going to think the worst, like Erika said. So I think that it is important, if Crystal is going to throw that out there, that she has to elaborate on it, because now this could be even more damaging by not just actually saying what was said. So,
well, here's another opportunity to, like you just said, an opportunity to have another conversation, a good one. And I feel like that would be great. And I just don't see it going south with Crystal and Sutton. I feel like there's going to be a resolution, and I feel like whatever it is going to be, we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. All right, guys. Well, I posted right here. Join us at 12 p.m. Eastern for Dubai, which is in literally 5 minutes. So we're going to be recapping the Real Housewives of Dubai, which we have a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. And I agree, this is the best way to end us off. The link for Dubai is pinned at the top of the live chat. And thank you, IBDASHID. Empathy is key. I agree with that 100%.
100%.
So, guys, don't forget to smash that like button, show some love, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Also, at the bottom, this code is different than what's going to be in our Dubai one. This one that you see at the bottom, kind of on the banner, it's for a 3-month prepaid beauty plan subscription with Birchbox. You can get 15% off. The next code has a totally different thing. So we'll see you in 4 or 5 minutes. Bye, guys. Love you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, 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 bye.